But I think another thing I wanted to mention before we go to the last question was all, like you mentioned about the values thing, because I think especially for small businesses, there's that tendency to like, I have to work with everyone, and it's just like you don't. And I think we didn't necessarily have it until recently. Like we knew what what our values were, like what as a team, like our mission, like stuff like that. But there's a difference between knowing it and having it in paper. So I think for us, like one thing, like we've always said, like we never want any of the conversations that we have, whether it's like to do with student experience, whether it's to do with entrepreneurship, like whatever, to be like a polished, like, oh, this is great. Even like we said with the university experience, like I told people, like I never want people to feel like, oh, like if they, like especially if they're a Brunel student, I was like, if you want to come on here and say like Brunel you had the worst experience with Brunel, I'm not going to be like,
it's your truth.
Yeah, I was like, say it's your truth. Like no one's going to, like we had in our first, so for our first podcast, the student guide, in our second season, we were talking about, like we had someone come on and we were talking about like placements, and I done a placement at Brunel. I said it was really good, I enjoyed it, like my manager was really supportive, it was great, yada yada yada. The other person was just like, oh yeah, I did one at Brunel, and to be honest, it wasn't great. And I was like, okay, like let's talk about it. Like what wasn't great about it? And they spoke about it, and I was just like, I'm not, like, obviously I was a bit concerned because I was also still studying at the time. I didn't need Brunel to come after me, but I was just like, no, like, and like I think that's what we said for now is like what we find really powerful from doing like the podcast is we said it's like a very authentic way for both like universities, organizations to know like how, especially for students who are about to graduate, like to know what they're thinking, because we said you can do like surveys, you can do forms, even especially with universities, and like we said, the placement thing. So when I was, literally last year I was working, doing my placement within, it was funny, my placement was supporting the placement team to help other students to find placements for their undergraduate degrees. And like, not like out of the blue, like we had a podcast series called like we've got one called So No One Told You. It's all about things when it comes to university that you don't really know about, or like no one really tells you until you experience it, and then you're just like, would have been nice to have known before. So we were just like, yeah, let's do that. And we did one on placements. And what was really interesting is my deputy director, like, when I started the job, he found out I did I didn't tell him that I did a placement episode. He just like was like, look, I told him I did pick up the mic. He looked into it and was just like, oh, like I saw you did a placement episode, and he was like, it was really good. Can I share it with my students? I was like, yeah, sure. So then he said, when I did that placement episode about like things you don't know about like looking for placements, he said it was really good because a lot of the things we discussed in that episode reinforced feedback he had got from students already, telling him that like, oh yeah, I don't know how to find a placement, or I think I'm too late to look for a placement, so all of this stuff. And I said, the good thing about the podcast is you can get this authentic feedback from students.
Unfiltered
as well, because I said like you can message like organization, like you can message them and say like give them like under like £5 or £10 voucher. But I said the ultimate truth is if they're doing something for the university, and especially if there's like a monetary value involved, most students will be like, well, I can't be honest because if I tell them like this is bad, they're going to take it away. So I said instead, like, if you want to support the podcast, like share the resources, you want to like, I don't know, like maybe sponsor a series or whatever, like it is a good way for you to know like how your students are actually feeling because I don't limit them. If they want to say like they hate your university, I'm gonna let them say it. Like it might not be good press for you, but ultimately I said it's better that you know like why students aren't enjoying things than you to try and like sugarcoat and be like, no, our university is perfect, or like our organization is perfect, everyone loves us. 100%. When you can actually find like honest and true feedback. And
I think this is even one of the things, because even with branding, like if I'm teaching people about like the whole customer experience journey, feedback is such a pivotal point of anything. Now, the reality is no one wants to hear they're not doing as good as they could be. It's a lot to stomach, right? Because you're putting your all into something and then someone's saying, yeah, it's not really working for me. But how else are you going to learn? Like, I think it's more important to get that quote unquote negative feedback early so that you can adapt and you can change so that you don't get it again rather than just ignore it. And then as you're, it doesn't have to be in business, in life. Do you get what I mean?
100%.
I just think, it would be important to learn how to take negative feedback and look at it as more as an opportunity to change. I think anyone who will hear a student saying, I didn't like this, and they say, how dare they come and say that? I'll be thinking, this is why they're saying that. So, yeah.
100%. So I think we come to the last question, and then I'll let you can ask me any questions you would like.
Thank you very much.
The last one is, I think we kind of touched on it, but we can expand on it, which is basically advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. So as we mentioned, you've got like a wide range of experience. You've worked with a lot of people. You've already given great advice, but for anyone who is looking to get, like, what advice essentially would you give to any entrepreneurs who are just starting out? And I think it's really important to sort of like undertone this with those who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed with the idea of like establishing their business and their branding of their business. What advice would you give to them?
Where do I start? I think one of my main things will be understand your reasons why. I think when you have a purpose to what you're doing, that's not just money driven, you will go a lot further, because the chances are is that in your first couple months or years as an entrepreneur, you might not be making funds. Do you get what I mean? So if money's the only motivating factor, I feel like a lot of people will drop out of it quickly. So I think you need to know your reason why and not let that be finance based. Like there has to be something that motivates you about it, because it will get hard. And when it does get hard, you want something else to rely on as opposed to just money, because when the money's not there, then are you going to give up?
Exactly.
So I would definitely say know your reasons why you're doing something. And I think this is why it's always useful to do something you're passionate about or you actually care about, because then you're driven to do it. I would also say find yourself a community of like-minded people. If you're a female entrepreneur, Mayo, the Lady Powerhouse, like she runs a community for female aspiring and current entrepreneurs, things like that. Companies like Dipped in Creativity Engagement, like they help people, with employment and, businesses, all that kind of stuff. And obviously people like myself, I always offer free webinars, free advice, etc. So find yourself and surround yourself with people who think like you. I think when I was first starting up, I had no one around me who was even remotely interested in business. And when you're trying to bounce ideas off of people and they're not interested, it can be disheartening. When you're telling people how big your dreams are and they're saying, are you sure about that? It can be disheartening. And I think until you're in a space with people who think like you and have similar goals or similar dreams to you or aspirations, you're never really going to be able to truly get it out. Do you get what I mean? So I definitely think having a community or a group of people who you can check in with and just kind of run things by is important as well. And like I said, if you don't have that already, there are organizations and places that you can go to find those things. I think as well, I would definitely say don't be afraid to invest in yourself. And not just in terms of like spending money on stuff, like invest in your skills, invest in learning new things, because I think with me, one of the best investments I ever made was actually finding resources and doing courses and all of this kind of stuff, because you learn so much. And once you have a skill and you can develop that skill continuously, you're good. Do you get what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't realize how much they're capable of learning until they actually try to learn stuff. So I think don't be afraid to invest in yourself as a person. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're getting a good amount of sleep. Make sure that you're actually taking care of yourself so that you can show up for your business in the best way possible. And then I think also don't be afraid to invest in your business. One thing that I commonly hear people say, and this isn't more so for businesses that I think are ready to kind of do their whole branding, but companies who are either starting up or thinking about it, they always say, do you know what? I'll focus on my branding when I get bigger. When I have customers and I've got some money coming in, then I'll do that. And I'm like, well, how do you expect to do that? Because the whole point of branding is that you're connecting with your audience. So if you think you're going to get big before you brand, do you get what I mean? Kind of like a backwards approach. And I think sometimes people are afraid to invest money or anything really into something they don't truly believe in. But if you don't truly believe in your business, then why are you doing it? I think with me, if someone said, oh, you have to pay £100 for this, and I think, yeah, I believe in my business, I'm going to find a way. Even if I had to work 2-3 jobs or, do you get what I mean, walk someone's dog, babysit someone, I would do it because I'm like, I thoroughly believe in what it is that I'm going to do. And well, it paid off, right? So I think definitely if you don't 100% wholeheartedly ride or die for your business, maybe you're not that interested in it, you know, or maybe it's not the right time. Because any business owner that I have seen become successful, they believed in their idea from the beginning. They always said, this is where I'm going to get and nothing is going to stand in my way. And I think that's also a thing, because if you do have doubts about your own business, as soon as something happens, as soon as something goes a little bit wrong, like imagine you're trying to start your podcast and one day the mic stops working. Jeffrey Frost, forget it. But because you're passionate, because you believe in it, if something goes wrong, you're quick to be like, okay, let's fix it. Let's see how to do this. So yeah, I definitely think you have to believe in yourself wholeheartedly. And just reach out to people who will learn. Any graphic designers or any, you know, would-be brand coaches who are trying to learn stuff, contact me. Do you get what I mean? Like, I mentor a couple people at the moment, and basically helping them get on their journey, because there's nothing wrong with learning from others. 100%. Do you get what I mean? And any person who is confident in their business will have no problem teaching you, because at the end of the day, I teach people, but I know we're not the same. I can't do what they do sometimes. They can't do what I do sometimes, right? We're all unique. We're all irreplaceable. So reach out, find help. But then also, I would just say in general, just don't give up. Like, it's so easy when you're starting something and maybe you don't have the funding and maybe you don't have the venue or you don't have the access. It's so easy to be like, well, maybe it's just not for me. But I think even the greatest people, the most successful people, have kind of like these come up stories that started, you know, in a difficult place. So, I mean, look at me, like now, it's like, sometimes I'm even like, wow, like people are paying me to do this when 5 years ago I was begging. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, don't give up ever, ever, ever.
Yeah, and I think, to just echo that, is like what you said, like, just never feel like what you're, like, never, I think kind of like you said about like getting paid, like the idea of like your business being passionate about it, not just doing it for money. It's just the event that I did the pay gig for, someone literally asked that, and I'll see if I can attach the reel so you can like hear it. The person basically was asked a question and they were just like, you know, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs? And they said, just because you like something or it's your hobby doesn't mean it doesn't need to be monetized. So you might like doing photography, you might like taking photos, but that doesn't mean that you have to now become a paid photographer.
100%.
Because if, like you said, like if you're only in it for the money, you, like you said, when it gets tough and no money's coming in and stuff like that, you're gone. You'll be like, cool, this was fun while it lasted.
Exactly.
As you mentioned, like if you're passionate about the mission, or like we were saying before about knowing your mission, vision and value statement, like if you're passionate about those things, you'll be like, cool, if this isn't working, or if it's even not paid, like, okay, I can still find a way for this to work, or I can still make the most of this opportunity. So yeah, I would definitely agree.
And I think even off of the back of you saying opportunity, I think, again, what we said before, go out and find opportunities or create opportunities, but also know that you don't have to say yes to every opportunity. Because what do they say? Like, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Yeah.
I was about to butcher the quote there. But yeah, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And I think it's true, because you see some brands sometimes and they're like, oh, this person wants to collab, let's do it. Or this person's offering me a brand deal, let's do it. And it's like, it can sometimes damage you more if you just said no. Because I think there's a difference between feeling like you have to take everything and being able to be selective. And I think when you reach that point where you're like, well, actually, no, this doesn't quite align with me, or this isn't quite what I want to do, and you can actually say no, you are building the business that you want and not the business that other people are forcing on you. And I also think that's very important. So yeah, I would just say, like, stand your ground, like have a set of values. They say, what are your brand's values for a reason? Because if you go against those values, you automatically look fake and people can't trust you. People don't buy from you. Imagine you've got a vegan brand who's now selling leather boots. Do you get what I mean? Adverts, like, I don't know about vegan stuff, but do you get what Imagine they're going against it. You're going to think, that's not really working, you know? So yeah, I think pick your values.
100%. And everything, I think, like, just one last thing to add would be, like, everything that you do, like your work, I think that's what someone said to me, was just like, everything you do should go, like, be funneled through that mission, vision and value statement. So
100%.
Whatever, if you want to start like a new service that you're running, if you want to, like, I don't know, like build your prices and like come up with a price list, like whatever you're doing, if it doesn't match like what is in your mission, vision and value statement, then you need to think, okay,
I know.
It's clearly going, like, if you're saying, like you said, like if you're saying, okay, I'm supporting like small owned businesses with my services, and then you're charging like small owned businesses like high prices, then you're not really supporting them, because you know that they probably, most small businesses probably couldn't afford it. So yeah, it's like we said, like if it's not matching those, then maybe you have to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, actually, let's see if I can like find a way for it to work. And if it can, then great. If not, then maybe you need to think about like if this is something you can put off until like you can find a way for it.
And even one more thing, I'd say don't be afraid to pivot.
100%.
Sometimes people will start something and then maybe they're 2 years deep. It's not really working out, but they're thinking, I've already come this far. Like, I have to continue. You're allowed to change direction.
100%.
Like, I'm sick and tired of hearing this sort of thing of, if you stop this, it's like a bad thing. Just because you change direction because something's not working for you doesn't mean that you've failed, doesn't mean you've given up. Because why would you continue with something that's a dead end when you could just turn to the left slightly or turn to the right slightly and actually just keep going? Like, even in my business, I started off doing graphic design and now I'm a branding studio. Obviously, if I didn't pivot, I wouldn't be doing branding. I wouldn't be doing workshops. I'd literally just be making logos as always. But I realized that, actually, there's something in this industry that I haven't accounted for in the beginning. So I pivoted. And it's okay. Like, doing a refresh or a rebrand, it's not a bad thing. You just have to do it with purpose. You do it with intention. And that's that. And my very last tip, can I just add
Go ahead.
There is no such thing as not branding. Okay? Branding is something that happens whether you do it intentionally or not. So if you're not branding intentionally, anything can happen. But you are constantly branding. There is not one time that you're not branding. If you upload that Instagram page and it's got absolutely nothing on it, you're branding. You know, if you go to a meeting and, you know, you haven't got your slides or your slides aren't working, it's branding. So just do everything with intention. And that's not to scare anybody, but it's just to be aware. Do you get what I mean?
100%.
If someone said, that's why when people say to me, I'm going to focus on my branding when it's big, you've already started. Do you get what I mean? So, yeah, do it with intention.
100%. Because like you said, like those small like conversations that you do. Like I think like one quote that my dad said that always sticks with me is that he said the people you meet on your way up, you'll meet, or you also meet on your way down.
100%.
And it's 100% like you're saying, like even if your business is like growing, and that's the reason why like a lot of like not even just with businesses, with individuals, like you know, when things come out, you know, whether it's previous tweets, like that's why people get in trouble, because
100%.
it's like you never took accountability, like you didn't think about like who you were back then.
Exactly.
And even like I told like I guess this is a bit of a pivot, but even like
it's a pivot, right?
So even with that, like as a business, like don't be a like not necessarily as a business, I guess this is more of an individual thing, but like if you've made mistakes or things like you've acted the wrong way, never be afraid to be accountable for that.
100%.
So like you can own up and be like, hey look, like we mucked up. And to be honest, the brands that do that the most, like I've told like in another episode, like we spoke about this and I said like with Xbox, like there were times when Xbox were releasing like really bad games and a lot of their consumers were just like, yeah, we're not happy with this is bad, yada yada yada. And why do people still stick with Xbox? Because the person who was, I think he was the CEO, he might still be the CEO, I don't know, but one of the head guys in Xbox, his name's Phil Spencer, he literally was just like we know we haven't done the best, we apologize guys, like we're working on it. And people have said like, because he comes out and apologizes, and it's not like like an email or a blog post or like he video camera to video, he might mention it in an interview, he'll come out and say it. And to have that accountability to be like, hey look, like it's not the developer's fault, or it's not like the studio that made the game's fault, like sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's just a hardware issue, like we're sorry that we couldn't deliver what we promised you, but we're going to work on it. Like to be that upfront with a brand is very important. And I think especially for small businesses, that to me is like, you're going to get more people in, especially as a small business, if you can show like, if you promise that you're going to like, I don't know, support people and you're just like, actually, sorry, like we're going to have to increase our prices because like, hey, look, it's a cost of living crisis. So we need the money. That's not like, no one's going to fault you for owning up for like, this is why you've made this decision. It's just having that open conversation with your consumers.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. It's really important.
In Interesting, because sometimes I feel like people think, oh, but if something's gone wrong, it can end my business. I'm a firm believer that a bad interaction will not end your business, but trying to pretend like a bad interaction never happened will. Because it's like, say for example, I bump into you and I say, oh my gosh, Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, cool, it's fine. If I bump into you and then I just... You're thinking, what? Did she not see? Do you get what I mean? So it's just like, it's okay to address when something goes wrong, the same way that you'll address when something goes right. But I think operating with transparency is something that every business needs to learn to do. Because I don't know if you see all this stuff on TikTok about these hairstylists and they're cancelling appointments and they're just, you know, ruining people's experiences. But a lot of the time what I've seen is that it's because no one gets an apology.
Exactly.
No one gets any accountability. They start saying, oh no, it was you, and oh no, it was you. And it's like, guys, we're all human beings, right? If you cancel someone's appointment on the day, you can understand why they're frustrated. You can fix that. It might not fix it perfectly, but you can fix it. And I think as long as you're trying to fix bad interactions as best as possible, who's going to be really mad at you? There might be some customers who are like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I don't care what you say. You get those people, fair enough. But the majority of people on earth are decent people. So as long as you are transparent and as long as you are open, that's fine.
That's fine. 100%. But yeah, we've gotten to the point where I'm going to hand over to you two.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions you want to ask me? Anything you want to... Oh, go ahead.
Hustle Chronicles, everybody. What I want to know, take me on the journey of branding from your perspective, because I'm always really interested to know how much you knew about branding going into this, how your branding knowledge has developed, where you think you are now, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Expecting that one, were you?
So I guess with branding, like none of us as a team had, well, I'd say I kind of had that experience. So it's something that I always keep saying, like, I need to go back to, and I definitely do. Hopefully this year we'll be doing a bit more. But I also have a sustainability platform that I run called New Generation, which is all about supporting, like raising awareness about like sustainable living and sustainable fashion. So we used to host fashion shows and stuff. So with that, like this was back in 2018, 2019. So we did one in 2018, did one in 2019. Then obviously like COVID hit and that like put a damper on everything. But yeah, we literally, so with branding, like especially with that, I knew I had to learn, like, because we weren't like a university society, there wasn't necessarily anything on Brunel's website that said that we existed. I had to learn about how can I market myself to contact like designers and universities and say, hey, look, like this is what we do. Do you want to be involved in like our fashion show, or do you want to be involved in our like on our Q&A series that we're doing? And then once we sort of like built, so I knew how to like message people and like build it up, but like thinking about like the posts we post and making them timely and all of this stuff wasn't something that I really knew about. So when it came to pick up the mic, literally, like I said, tell everyone, like our first season of the student guide, we literally just were mainly like three of the episodes were the team. So it was I led one, my friend Anushka led one, my friend Samuel led one. The other 7 guests were either people that we knew or people that were friends of friends, or like people that, I don't know, like let's say we messaged each other, like we attended the same event and we were just like, oh, we do this. So it was just literally like word of mouth. But then as it like started to grow, we were just like, okay, cool. We need to think about like how we can like bring people in, how we can like grow. Because even like, as you mentioned, like, I think it was Christmas 2021 or Christmas 20... I think it was Christmas 2022. There was someone that was on the podcast and she said she thought we were... Like, funny enough, she's on the team, but she said like when we approached her to be on the podcast, she thought we were like a university society. And I was like, oh no, like we're not a Brunel society. We're like our own independent thing.
Yeah.
So like for me, with all the... So like with the with New Generation and with Pick Up the Mic, we... Like New Generation haven't changed it because I can't think of another thing. But with Pick Up the Mic, we originally were Pick Up the Mic Brunel on Instagram because when contacting Brunel students, I was just like, I don't want to seem like a fake account that's like saying we do all this stuff. I was like, if I put Brunel, students will think, oh, they're related to Brunel. So if I'm a Brunel student, I can come on. There's that sense of like logic of like why we're doing what we're doing. But yeah, now we're changed to establish like we Pick Up the Mic network.
See you guys pivot.
So yeah, so as you pivoting. And even like we said, when it came to our like social media stuff of like, okay, so how do we, like what platforms are we on? Like we started off with just Instagram and LinkedIn. And then we were just like, it's going really well. As I mentioned, we then had like, we were on listening platforms, and then we pivoted onto YouTube to do like video series, because we were just like, having the video could work really well. Then we were just like, okay, so especially with the student guide, because that's currently on season 6, we every season, I was just like, we have to think about what's like, we don't want it to get repetitive. So what's that different thing each season that people are going to get that they didn't get the last season? Yeah. So for our first season, so after our first season, I was like, cool, we're going to do a teaser for the episode. So we'll release a teaser the week before the episode comes out. And then the week the episode comes out, they get the full episode. Yeah. Then for our third season, I don't remember if I'm doing this in the right order, but essentially for our third season, I think I then said, okay, cool, I'm going to add like a question part. So I'm going to say like the guest speakers can also ask me questions. I was like, I don't know what it's going to be called, but I'm just going to like give them the opportunity to ask me a question. It can be related to the topic. It can be something completely different. Then for our fourth season, I was like, cool, what could we do next? So each season that we've done it, I've tried to like add something new. So adding, so like changing so each season for the student guide especially has a different like infographic, the thumbnails are all different, but then we also add like something new with it. So now we're at a point where, so we have the questions that I asked the guest speaker halfway. Oh yeah, that was it. So season 4, I added this thing called mic check, which was literally just an interesting fact or figure or story related to the conversation that I just like put in there, see if people are interested. So then I put it in there. Then for season 5, I was just like, okay, well, how can we build on top of like what we've already got? So for that, we introduced a segment called Takeaway, which was basically like, okay, so people might not necessarily watch the whole episodes at once, especially because like with all the stuff we were adding, the videos were getting longer. So we were just like, okay, what can we like add to drum up like interest? So we said, cool, we're going to add the takeaway section, and it's going to be like one key message for our audience members to go home with, that even if they only listen to like the last like 10 minutes, this is what they're going to go home with. Yeah. This is what was impactful. And then for our 6th season, we added like so the teaser, we added like a short clip of the conversation to the start of the episode. So as you mentioned with branding, like we're trying to always think about like for the different stuff that we do, how can we make it different? Even like, as I mentioned with the different podcasts that we do, we didn't want them all to just be like a Q&A, like I interview you, you interview me. Like even if they were all on different topics, we wanted them to have like interesting things. So, yeah. As you sort of said before, this is more of a bit of a discussion thing. So even though I am still asking questions, I still allow the guest speaker like at any point to sort of ask me questions, where on the student guide, it's only at that certain point that they can ask me that question. I mean, they can ask me questions during it, but the main part is where they ask me that question. With our podcast, So No One Told You, it's not even like a Q&A at all. It's literally just we discuss a top, like we discuss 3 points, and we discuss it in the format of like what you didn't know about uni, how their experience, what was the truth about that. So if someone said, I didn't know, like I had to pay, like, I don't know, like if I live on campus, I have to pay rent. We'd say like, what is the reality of that? And then what is some key advice or lessons learned from us that like any listener could take with them if they're going to. Yeah. So that was more of a conversation. So even for our individual podcasts, we think about like how it's branded. And even now it's to the point where, so like, for example, with some of our, like with the Two Masters podcasts that we do, like with that, we try and make it more topical. So the sci-fi or fantasy or history or the TV shows and films that they discuss, try and keep it based on like, okay, what TV shows are currently coming out, what big ones are on the horizon that would be really good. Even when we like repost like clips of stuff that like, if it's something that we've discussed like in the past, you know, if there's a film or a TV show coming out, we'll try and like jump on that bandwagon. So like I think when Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse came out last year, we interviewed someone at Comic-Con, literally asking him like, okay, so this is coming out, what do you... and we literally just reposted it on Instagram and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and we're just like, cool, let's put this out there so we can sort of jump on that, because people are excited for the film. We know people are looking forward to it. Let's use this as a way to like push people to get involved, to be interested in the next episode, like in this episode. So we're always looking at like how we brand ourselves and like how we put our name out there. It has worked really well, because funnily enough, we've had people like message us and say like, oh, I've heard of, especially the student guide. I don't know how. People like we've approached like universities to collab with them, or we approached people and we said, oh yeah, we've got this thing called the student guide, and they're just like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of it. You're like, really? Okay, cool. Like, I didn't know, but yeah. So I think for us, we're definitely like just thinking about like how we brand. And I think like one final thing to add to that is, like we said about making opportunities, I turn around and say that being like that graduation speech was the biggest branding thing to like that. Last year there were a lot of like big things, so like getting nominated for awards and stuff, getting finalists for awards was good, but for the most part, like so some of those awards were within Brunel or like speaking at events at Brunel, so it wasn't like on a big stage. So more people at Brunel found out about Pick Up the Mic and other departments, which was really good. But I think for us, the graduation speech was really good because, so what I did, and this is where you mentioned about like planning your branding. So when I told my brother that like, oh, keep an eye out, like I'm going to be on stage, like something's going to happen, I told him, could you just record that part? And then when I come home, I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn, post a bit of it on Instagram, post it on TikTok for the business. So literally so I came home and I was just like, I recorded it. I just like wrote up like because we have a thing for the podcast called Tuesday Motivation, which myself, my sister for the business that she runs, my brother for the business that he runs. We like started in lockdown as just like a thing to just motivate people during the lockdown periods. But now we just keep it going because we realize like for a lot of people it is quite a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
So I told my brother, I was like, cool, I'm just going to, like, it was a Tuesday that I graduated, so I said, this is perfect. I'm just going to use it as the Tuesday motivation for that day. So I literally got home, uploaded it, posted it on LinkedIn, and like, I was just like, let's just see what happens. And then it worked really well. As soon as I posted it and published it on LinkedIn, like, it got, like this was like, I don't know, like this was a while ago, but like it got like I think 4,000 views on LinkedIn, and it got reshared a lot. People that I wasn't even connected with, like were just like, wow, this is really impactful. I shared it on my Instagram, and bearing in mind the Instagram that I shared it on is not even like, I used to have a private. Well, I've got a private page. And I used to put like a lot of business stuff there, but I've now got like a public page that I let everyone like I share. Yeah. So that's where like more of the business stuff and less of like my personal stuff I put there. So for me, I just shared it on there, and then that got, I think, maybe like 2,000 views. People who were like I wasn't connected with were sharing it, saying like, this is really great, yada yada yada. So I think for me, even like branding like that, like I went into it thinking, okay, this is not like, I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, I'm doing the speech to benefit the business. But I like when I first wrote the speech, I didn't talk about like any of my like business experience, but I was just like, actually, I want to give the opportunity for like any of the brands, like my siblings' brands I support. So I help them in different things. So I was just like, I'm going to mention their businesses as well, because I'm giving them a platform too. So I think when it comes to branding, there's definitely that need to like think of like, I think like you said, like sometimes you need to capture that content and you're not always able to do it in the moment, but especially if it's like something recorded, if it's events, like try and get people to capture those moments, because like now the graduation speech is on our website. People can see it as soon as like it's on the landing page. As soon as people log on, they see it. On my LinkedIn page, I put it there and it's like clear, it's on my featured tab. So as soon as people go on my page and they scroll down, they'll see it as the first thing there. For me, it's always about like, just think about like how this could show people like what, because sometimes you might, like you said before about that idea of self, you might not see like the work you're doing as like big, or you're like making moves or like stuff like that. Yeah. But when you show people like, no, actually like you're doing a lot. You'll be surprised that people will be like, oh no, wow, like this person's really cool. I need to connect to them. I need to do this or I need to do that.
Well done.
Thank you.
So my next question, obviously we spoke a lot about people being, or brands, being irreplaceable and things like that. So I want to know what it is that makes Pick Up the Mic irreplaceable. Okay. Like, what makes you different to other podcast networks?
Okay. Go. Cool.
So next question. Obviously we spoke about brands being irreplaceable. But I want to know what makes the Pick Up the Mic network irreplaceable. What makes you different from other podcast networks?
So I'd say it's like three things. So first off is, and it's funny enough that you mentioned this, because we're hopefully like, I won't lie and say it's going to be done like posted at least within the next like couple of days, but hopefully by the time this episode's out, it is out. So we're doing a bit of like we're applying for a competition and we have to do a video pitch. So we thought it was a good opportunity to update like our show reel with all the stuff that we do. So for us, we've identified like three key groups that we essentially want to support. So the three are students, universities, and the media industry as a whole. So for us, the unique thing for each of those three groups is when it comes to students, we know that as students, there's either like a lack of knowledge of what's available at your university. So whether it's like funding opportunities for your business, whether it's support services for like mental health and well-being, whether it's even just like what the university offers you after you graduate, students don't always know about that. So there's a lack of understanding on that. But as we mentioned as well, there's sometimes like a lack of like being able to have like an honest conversation about your own experience. So we said that when it comes to students, they don't always get that. When it comes to universities, we said, so kind of like I mentioned before, there's that disconnect on what the university offers and students knowing what's available. Sometimes there's a disconnect between like what you what the university is teaching you and what the industry is looking for. So like, as I mentioned, like with podcasts, like I know at Brunel through just the internship program that we've got with the film, media and TV, I think is the course. But with that course, like they were doing like lectures on podcasts because obviously like now podcasts have become like a really big thing. But we know not every university will be able to do that. Not every university will be able to give their students the opportunities to like learn about podcasting and to gain these skills that can help with stuff. Even like the two people that helped us last year through that program. Like one of them, like I had never done a live stream before. She had done like a live stream on TikTok and on other platform, TikTok, and I think YouTube. So both of them like had experience on doing that. And I was like, I've never done this before. And it's really great to see that. But I know not every student's got that. And a lot of organizations, especially like if they're trying to like join, if you're like a film or media or creative writing student, like a lot of organizations are looking for people to have these like extra skills that you might not necessarily know about. So yeah, that's the university. And then when it comes to the media industry, obviously like the biggest thing is like a lack of representation. So whether it's to do with like regardless of like whether it's to do with race or gender or even age, like we said, like when it comes to a lot of like we were saying, like business owners, whether it comes to like a lot of like people who are like hosts and stuff like that, you don't necessarily see like a lot of young people there. It's people who are already like established in their industry. And they've been like, I don't know, like been involved with the media industry from like a really young age, and maybe they were a child actor, but now they've pivoted to go into presenting and stuff. So so as a business, for those three groups, we see it that one, we give opportunities for students, universities, small organizations, big organizations to come onto the podcast and share their work, like give them a platform to share themselves. And we say, especially when it comes to like small businesses and students, they rarely get an opportunity to like create something that they can then showcase to the world and say like, hey, I came onto this podcast and I did this. So we see it as a really great opportunity for students to also show to like employers, or even like organizations to show to like funders and stuff, like that their mission. Because we said, especially if you're a student, like how many students can come and say like, oh yeah, I've done a podcast recording where I spoke about something either related to my degree or to my passion. And we said like, that's a clear standout thing for you to mention in an interview. So we like to create those opportunities. The second thing that we like to do is to foster that like relationship of preparing students to gain like skills that can help them after university. So like I said, through the internship program, like I teach. So the two people on the program this year, they'd never done podcasts before. So I said, cool, like I can show you like how it works, like the best equipment to use, like how even like stuff like this soundboard works. Like, so if you did want to go into like podcasting, or let's say you I don't know, you wanted to do freelance work, then you can do that. You can essentially like get paid to like be a podcast editor or stuff like that on the side, as well as doing it like supporting like the podcast. And then finally, when it comes to the media industry, like we said, there are like some schemes or like initiatives that organizations runs that aren't always like shared to the right people, or like not everyone knows about it. No one knows that it exists. So we like to create those opportunities for people to connect, for people to like come, whether it's through the networking events we do, whether it's through the podcast we create, to like hear those discussions, but also to like learn of like, you can then platform your like business. So like you said, like, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of one. Like City. So like City are an organization, they're not in the media industry, but they're an organization that do a lot of like placement work. They support like young children. And we said, it's like a really cool scheme. A lot of people may not necessarily know about it, or they'll only know that, you know, you can apply there to do placements, but people can work there too. So we said like, let's bring them on. Let's have a discussion with them. Another example would be like we had an episode with Foundervine. So speaking with someone from Foundervine, she shared like what the work that Foundervine now do. And I think especially when it comes to the media industry, it's just like building that connection of like, and that's something we definitely want to go, like that's one group out of the three we want to go more into this year is like, if there are like these development opportunities, all of this stuff, give them that. Because we know, as I mentioned, like there's not always seeing that representation, or, you know, you might see like, I don't know, like a black podcaster, but like I said, it might be someone who's already a big media presence. They've already got their, like they built their own channels and stuff like that. And then, I think very lastly is with the photography and videography and like interview services that we've like started to offer, we've said like we know ourselves that like sometimes you'll have like the most impactful event, like it's really great, really cool. You're seeing all these connections being made, and then unfortunately there's nothing captured from the event. So no one knows what happens. Or like you might hear like someone might say like the best advice you've ever heard, but then you'll just be like, it wasn't recorded. Like no one even spoke about it. So for us, we want to help organizations and individuals like capture that, because I think we said like one of the most powerful things you can have is like, even with the networking events that we do, like we started that last year and did 2, and they were both really great. And for us, we really liked it because we could look back and listen to like, especially the International Women's Day one that we did, like that was really cool for at least me to like, also I was running around that day trying to, like there were issues with food, so I had to run around and sort that out. But the bits that I did here were really cool, and I think it was really nice because we like I said, there were some issues that meant that we had to start late and stuff. But what was really impactful to me was even when we started like the networking part of like letting the guests network with the the audience and like to speak to them first. To me, it was really impactful because they got to network and they were really enjoying the discussion. So when it was time to start even, people were just like, oh yeah, but just come in. And I was like, oh cool, like I won't rush you, like let's take your time. Exactly. So I think when it comes to that, like we offer all these things. And I think for us, at least, we don't see, like we do see like there are organizations that do bits of what we do, but we don't see one that does all of what we do. Yeah. So we think that through the like connecting all these areas and, I guess one final thing is that we look at the student journey, especially when it comes to students, we look at it holistically. So we don't only, like I said, we have an anime, we have a gaming channel, we have a sci-fi and fantasy channel, and those entertainment podcasts were all around the idea of that we know that like academics, professional development, personal development, like all of this stuff doesn't make up, like as a young person or whether you're a uni student or not, like it doesn't make up everything about you. So we were just like, you might be really interested in learning about like entrepreneurship, or you might be interested in learning about like career development, but you might also have days when you're just like, actually, I like my favorite TV show release an episode or a trailer and I'd love to hear someone talk about it. So we said that rather than like putting students in a difficult position where they're only like getting this like developmental stuff all the time, we said, wouldn't it be great to actually have a space where people are talking about like your favorite TV shows and games, and you can come and connect with them. So those are like, I guess our like 5 unique things that we do. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Spoke a lot about collaboration before, and the benefits of collaboration, and how it's not just large companies. Like, how can people collaborate with you? What sort of stuff can people collaborate with you on, myself included? But yeah, I think because a lot of people are probably listening in, thinking, "Oh, I'd love to work with them," but they don't know in what capacity. So yeah, how can people collaborate with you?
I think that's a really good question. I think for us, the biggest way you can collaborate. I think breaking it down to those 3 groups. So if you're a student and you want to be on the podcast, do please feel free to get in touch. We do have like, I think like you said, like we've got we've got a speaker request form. So like if someone wants to be a speaker, we say like, okay, just like we put our like mission, vision and value statement and say, look, this is who we are. If you want to be on the podcast, like just complete this form. Let us know like what you would talk about. If you've spoken on like other podcasts or you have other examples of your work, like let us know. And then finally, like we'll review your like, not necessarily application, but we'll review it. And if we think there's like a way we can connect, a way we can have you on the podcast, we're happy to have you on. If not, then we might be able to like point you in the direction of other podcasts. So if you're a student or like a small business and you want to get into that space, I definitely recommend like completing that form. I can put it in the description of this video. But yeah, definitely complete the form. If you're university, like we have started to have conversations with like student unions at the moment, but we're also trying to open to other like actual universities as well, to have that like collaboration. Now, as I mentioned, like I know, for example, when it comes to student unions, like from having people who, like friends who work there, like I know there's not always like a big budget, so like they might not be able to pay for like a podcast. But I've said, like we've mentioned here, it's like, okay, if you can't pay for us to like produce a podcast for you, then maybe if you can like produce a space, if you can like give us space to host events at your university, if you can like promote our episodes and events that we're holding, even if we can't hold it at your university, like that, finding a way to like work with that. So yeah, I'll say if you're a university, that's the way to do it. And especially like with the I've forgotten it. I literally forgot it. Yeah, with the not only just to like with the podcast, but hosting events. Like as I mentioned, we want to do more. Like we're doing at least one networking event in March. We've got like a big celebration coming. Yeah, I mentioned it before. Our celebration. I'll say it here now because it's like 90% confirmed. Our celebration event is going to be in April. I'm just waiting for all the details to definitely be confirmed, and then we will release that like ticket. But yeah, I think having like collaborating with that, like even if you can't provide space, but you're happy to like cover, like if we do events, you're happy to like give us a space where we could have like food and drink. You could provide the food or drink, or you can put us in touch with people that could do that. It's perfectly fine. When it comes to like brands and like you mentioned, like with yours, like we're always happy to promote stuff. Funnily enough, like it was when you were speaking that you actually gave me an idea for something, which I'm going to keep quiet because it's actually a really cool thing.
This is what you were doing with all those people at your graduation. Oh yeah, I've got something, but I'm not going to tell you. I told you already, I said I can't.
No. Because yeah, you gave me a really good idea from this discussion. So there was something that we were actually going to work on for our birthday, which I was going to announce at the event. I'll see how it goes. I might save it, I might not. It's basically depending on like, because that's, yeah, oh my days, it's a month today. Yeah, a month to today is 3 years since we launched our first episode of Pick Up the Mic. Yeah, I can't believe, yeah, I generally can't believe that. Yeah, wow, man, 3 years. Yeah, well, thank you.
It's a big achievement.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, so yeah, I've given myself a month. Yeah, we're gonna launch. Like, there was something we were gonna launch to like support people, especially if they were looking for jobs and stuff. Like, give them some support there. But literally, fun enough, from this conversation, it's actually given me another idea to add to that. So I'm looking forward. Okay, so yeah, keep an eye on the space. But yeah, I think with small businesses and brands, like we want to like, and individuals, like we want to spotlight people. So if you want to come on and you want to be spotlighted, like please do like complete the form or send a message and we can send you the links. But also if you want to like, because like I won't lie, we're not like we're revenue generating, but not that much at the moment. So if you do want to like I don't know, like design stuff for us, if you're a graphic designer, if you want to like I don't know, you're looking to gain like public speaking experience, or you want to get podcast hosting experience, like I might not be able to pay you, but I can give you those opportunities. And I've always said to people, like, I might not be able to pay you, but I can definitely put you in touch with people that I think will be really good for you. So I like, even like I said, at networking events, I'm that guy that's like, oh, you two haven't spoken? Like, we got to bring you two together. Because yeah, so there's a few things with that. And then I think within the media industry, like both, so from a personal level, like I know a lot of people, like even sometimes my family like think, oh, like you did like my undergraduate was environmental science, my master's was in sustainability, entrepreneurship and design. So they're like, oh, like you need to go into like the sustainability field and like, you know, working for like an environmental organization and stuff. But I think there's this, I've forgotten her name, but I will include the link to her podcast below because hopefully she should hopefully be at the networking event at Brunel. Like if you haven't heard me speak about it, we're going to do like a live stream at the Roundhouse, but due to spacing, we can only have like a small number there. So we're also going to do like another networking event on the same day at the same time at Brunel. So people can basically, yeah, so the whole idea is that people will watch the live stream for a bit, and then when the live stream ends, people at Brunel will be able to like network. It's a bigger space so they can connect with people, and then the ones within the Roundhouse will just like connect personally with the speakers at this event. But yeah, the really cool thing that we like, I guess with organizations and individuals is like we're trying to connect them through that, like through like whether it's the events we do, through the podcast. And as I mentioned, like on a personal level, there's like a Brunel speaker, alumni, she like goes around, like she's an engineer by trade, but she literally like hosts, like she does interviews like with people. So she like goes around, she gets like maybe like if I don't know, like I don't know if she's worked with BBC, but like BBC might be like, oh, we want to do a series on like female like maybe whether it's founders or female like women within STEM doing incredible work. We want you to like host it. And like I've said, like personally to me that would be the best. Like I would love to host like environmental stuff. I love hosting. I love doing the podcast. It connects my passion with my degree as well as like my passion for like hosting and podcast producing and all this stuff. So for me, that would be the biggest thing, would be that opportunity to like connect, or I guess personally, to connect those two areas there. But also within the like media industry as well, like if you do want to do like schemes to support, especially like you mentioned, like black founders, or like you want to support like certain groups, like we as a team are quite diverse. We're diverse both in like our backgrounds, our educational backgrounds, as well as like the way we learn, neurodiversity and things like that. So we always say like we would love to support organizations like that. Like one, I guess like I'm working on it. This one I will say, I'm working on like trying to do so my old manager, she runs like a summer school for girls to like promote like not only women in STEM, but like to showcase like women. Like you can still be like a girl who's like really into makeup, really like dresses up, but you can still be like a civil engineer. So she said like she actually finally used to have someone who was on her team who she was like dressed in like she came like dressed very formally. And this was to like a group of, I think it was year 12 girls. And they came and she was just like, yeah, I'm a civil engineer. And they were just like, why is a civil engineer like wearing a dress, wearing high heels? Like she's got loads of, like she looks really great and all this stuff. And she was just like, yeah, like, we're allowed to. So I would love to do like, I don't know if it would necessarily be like summer schools, because I'd need like, that's a big commitment, but like even if it was just like a day where like you bring together like people and you say like, okay, cool, this is like a network opportunity for whether it's like black founders or like women within like women founders or women interested in like personal and career development and stuff like that. Because like I mentioned, everyone that we've had on the podcast is really doing like incredible work, but we don't want to like only do like networking events and stuff. Like we want to do a bit more, obviously like within the capacity of like what the team can handle, because I know like I've told the team I'm the guy that like I can come with ideas, but I also don't want my team to then like, I'm not paying them, so I don't want them to run and be like, Jeffrey, we're good, thanks. So I think that would be the last thing with media industry. Like, if you're interested in like working on some of these programs, like do please feel free to get in touch, because like we want to like get into that space. If you're looking like to give us like a dedicated recording space, I will be happy with that too. I'll be happy with that too. And then, I guess one final thing, especially with the media industry, is, I guess I'll say it now because it's like a month from my birthday. The podcast birthday. Is one key thing is, so there's this podcast, that these two amazing women do, which is called To My Sisters. They're really great people. And I met Renee, funnily enough, at the Roundhouse at an event that her friend was like speaking at. And funnily enough, you know, it's bad. I'm the worst with names. Her co-host, I met. Yeah, Courtney. She was at so we were both at, I wanted to speak to her, but it was just like the evening like was busy, so I didn't get the chance. But she was actually at an award ceremony that we were both weren't, like, she was nominated for an award and won, but it was the same award ceremony, so we were both there. But yeah, I know that they did a like live podcast. I don't remember where they did it, but they did a live podcast, and they also had their face on. If you know Leicester Square, you know the billboard. So my dream was like, I guess for the podcast would be like to keep it local, because I grew up in Camden for most of my life. My dream would be to like do a live podcast, not like live stream, like live in-person podcast at the Roundhouse, like in the, like obviously like the one that we're gonna do is in one of the studio spaces in the co-working space, but like to do one in the big, like have the big space, bring loads of people in, that would be the dream. If anyone around is listening, you wanna if you want to collaborate, send me an email. We can work out some deets. But yeah, that would be like my big thing, because I think like the podcast has been really fun to do, and like I've loved it. I know like the people on the team have loved it. The guests love it as well. So I think for us, like we would love to like elevate it, and not necessarily because we want to elevate it to like big up our name and all this stuff, but like we want even like our guests to see like, yeah, you've been a part of this journey. Even like I said, that event on the celebration event in April, like I'm inviting like everyone who's been on the podcast to come to this event, because I'm just like, hey, look, like yeah, it's 3 years and we've been like marketing and doing videos and stuff, but we're only able to say like we're 3 years old and it's still going because of like people like you who've come onto the podcast and spoken. Oh, you're very welcome. I think that would be my like last thing, especially with like media industry, is like, if you've got spaces for us to like have these events and like bring people in, because you're just like, oh yeah, we want to support young people, we want to like give people the opportunity to network, we want to connect like founders with investors and all of this stuff, like we are very happy to do that. So yeah, that would be the big thing. That's really oh, thank you very much.
Taking my own notes also.
But yeah, we've now come to the end of the episode. Drew, it's been amazing to thank you. For my first podcast ever. You see, you are natural. You are natural. Yeah. So look, I'm looking for more to come. You never know. Maybe to my sisters, if you're listening.
Yeah.
If you're listening, then collaboration. I can see it. But yeah, we always give everyone who comes on the opportunity. If people want to connect, if people want to learn more, maybe if they want to contact you about collaborating with them for courses, maybe even if they would like you to speak on their course, what's the best way for them to do that?
So all my social is designed by.
Oh, we go. It's like pow.
So yeah, all my socials designed by Juju Bang. My website www.designedbydjujubang.co.uk. You can contact me through any of those platforms. Also by email, you can find me on all those platforms as well. But yeah, feel free, please do contact me. I'm always up for a chat. Always looking for new people to collaborate with. And yeah, who knows? This time next year we could be talking again, saying how many people we've collaborated with since. So yeah. Get in touch.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I don't think I've actually said it, but with this series, the whole plan is that we bring on these like everyone who's been on comes back on to come and speak about their business, whether it's 6 months or in a year's time, to just say like, how has things progressed since the last time we spoke? So yeah.
I'll see you guys soon.
But yeah, if you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes of the Hustle Chronicles or any of the other episodes on the Pick Up the Mic channel, please do click the notification bell at the bottom of the video. If you're interested in receiving some perks, then please do check out either our Patreon page, which is linked down below, or our YouTube channel membership, which is also down below. As I've mentioned, I need to figure out when these episodes come out, but like I mentioned, we're going to show a picture of the t-shirt. If it's not been shown before, it's getting shown now. But yes, we have t-shirts that we're designing. We're in the process of just finalizing what that design looks. So it might not necessarily look the same as what I was wearing. There might be a few things added to it actually. So if you do want to make sure that you get a shirt, please do make sure that you're subscribed to our Patreon. I won't guarantee it now, but we might do a giveaway. I'm saying it here first. We might do a giveaway to celebrate 3 years. We'll see. But yeah, if you also want to make sure you don't miss any of our other podcasts, as I mentioned, we have 3 separate YouTube channels. So if you're interested in gaming, the world of gaming, learning about why representation and diversity within gaming is important, please do check out Pick Up the Controller. If you're interested in the world of sci-fi and fantasy, or you want to learn more about your favorite TV shows, films, video games, all the history behind them, not only within the TV show, film, or games universe, but also why it was created, some of the concerns and issues around that, please do check out the Two Maesters channel where they dive into all of those. And finally, if you're a big anime fan, you want to hear from content creators, cosplayers, artists, all of that amazing and fun people, please do check out Senseis of Anime, where we do, like I mentioned, we do the live interviews at events, but we also give them the opportunity to come onto the podcast and speak about the cool stuff they do. But yeah, that is the end of today's episode. We're going to close the Chronicles there, and we'll see you next time with a new business, a new entrepreneur, but most importantly, diving into the world of business and what it means to us. So that's a bye from us here, and we'll see you all soon. Oh, perfect.